Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this Khayrallah Center webinar. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. My name is Dr. Akram Khatir. I'm a professor of history here at North Carolina State University, and I'm also the director of the Moise Khayrallah Center for Lebanese Diaspora Studies. So today we will be talking about our project that's about 18 months old now, of working with AI and Arabic manuscripts. Before I proceed to talk about that, let me just tell you a little bit about the format we're running. In essence, this is a webinar, which means you can only see me. There are other folks you will not be able to see, the other participants. If you wish to ask a question or you have a comment or anything, please use the Q&A. I have our communications manager, Ms. Lauren Weiss, who will be also monitoring that and letting me know if there's a question that is urgent that I need to answer. Please know, given the fact that we have limited time, that we may not be able to answer all your questions. But in that case, please feel free to follow up with an email. I'm happy to answer it, and Lauren will put in my email in the chat so you can reach out to me at any point. Obviously, when we are developing this kind of system, it's going to be a lot of details. And if I'm running through some of these details a little bit too much, sometimes not enough, please know it's about, you can always ask a question. I can try to go into greater depth. So let's proceed at this point. And in essence, I would like to start out by talking a little bit about who we are at the Khayrallah Center for those of you who have only encountered us recently. So we have a very simple mission. It is to preserve the history of Lebanese immigrants in the United States and beyond, and to share that history with the scholarly community and general public. I'm going to share with you a brief video to give you a better idea about who we are. So, as you can tell from this brief intro, we have spent the last 7 years, 8 years of our existence as a center here at North Carolina State University building an archive. And this archive comes from a variety of places in the world. As you can see from this map, it tells you a little bit the locations as well as the size of the collections that we get. For the most part, a lot of our material is in Arabic, especially our newspaper database that we have been accumulating for a while now, and we keep adding to it, as well, of course, as manuscript pages that we have in Arabic. So Arabic is central to our mission because a lot of the early immigrants and even later immigrants used Arabic as a way of communication. So it is a vital element of understanding of the history of this community and what they said about themselves, how they communicated with folks back in Lebanon, and how they communicate with each other. From the very beginning, we understood something very important, that our archive, in many ways, is not a traditional archive. Rather, we want it to be open access. And what I mean by that is two things. One, we want it to be open access in the sense that we wanted to digitize the majority of the material we have and make it freely available as an open source for research to anybody who has access to the internet. So that's one aspect of it. But we also understood very early on that we have to develop technologies, archival technologies, to make the accumulation of knowledge searchable, discoverable, and easily accessible. And given the fact that a lot of it, the majority, I would say, is in Arabic, then we needed to make sure that that archival technology was developed specifically for the Arabic language. Our first foray into that was about 4 years ago when we started developing a newspaper database based on the newspapers, hundreds of thousands of pages of Arabic language newspapers published in North America, Central America, and South America. And this database was released September 2024 for researchers to use. And basically, the idea is very simple. We have taken, and I can go through the technical stuff for that, but I want to focus on the handwriting. But I just want to give a background, and you can go to the website. This database basically allows anybody to go in, type in a text string in Arabic, and retrieve any material that is in that database that pertains to that text string. And we are continually adding to it. And in fact, later on, I will show you that we are coming up with version 2.0 of this database, because we're continuing to improve the experience of the user. But what also was evident that a lot of our material is actually handwritten Arabic. And that was also a challenge. So what we began is a program to develop Arabic handwriting text recognition system. And that effort is nothing new for us. People have been trying to deal with recognizing Arabic handwriting for the last 2-3 decades with different kind of technologies. But with the arrival of artificial intelligence, what's called also convolutional neural networks, we are able to do a little bit more. Now, this system that we have developed, and I will be demonstrating it a little bit later, was developed by funding from the center mainly, but also we received a generous grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities, as well as Family Search. And the people who worked on this project for the last 18 months are these folks that you see here, myself as a team lead, my colleagues who are both at NC State, Dr. Mehreen Saeed, who is a lead scientist, and she works at the center, and Dr. Chao-Wei Wong, who is also a computer scientist specializing in computer vision, and he works in the computer electrical engineering department at North Carolina State University. We have graduate students. These are the current ones, who are all graduate students in computer science. And also we had the privilege of working with Kaslik University, the Holy Spirit University of Kaslik, specifically with Carlos Yunus and George Habshi, who were very instrumental in the Arabic transcription that I'll talk about in a little bit. Now, what we began with is we tested out different models, different convolutional neural network models that we can train in order for it to understand. And what we decided upon using is one that was actually developed for handwritten German, medieval German language, and it's called Start, Follow, and Read. And the logic of it is that once we train the AI system, it will begin to identify where a sentence begins, how it proceeds and it ends, and then we develop a network to recognize what are the words that are contained within segmentation. So this is what's called Start, Follow, Read, and we developed specifically, we took the model in existence and we needed to train it. Now, to train it, what basically we had to do was create a data set of ground truth. What that basically means is we had to develop an Arabic data set of images that have been transcribed manually into digital text, so that the AI understands that this image or this segment of the image equals this word. And that's how we trained it. So we developed a data set called Muharraf. And the purpose of it is to train the handwritten text recognition system for historic Arabic manuscripts with casual writing styles. And again, I'm going to differentiate a little bit about this as we go forward, and I'll talk a little bit about the typeface that we are concerned about and how we train for different typefaces as well. And the way we, as I said, we do it is we create annotation. That is, we divide up the lines manually, and we transcribe those text lines. And we did that to create that training data set. And we continue, by the way, to add on to that data set. Currently, Muharraf has 1,644 images, 1,216 are public, and 428 are restricted. They are restricted because they come from Kaslik archive the Holy Spirit University archive, and they requested that they provide permission for researchers to use them or not use them. But the 1216 are public, and I'll tell you how you can gain access to all of this because it's all open source available. The time period that we're looking at in terms of handwriting really extends from the early 1800s to the early 21st century, but specifically I would say most of our material is coming from the late 19th century, the 1880s, 1890s, all the way into the 1960s, 1970s. The bulk of the material is coming from there. We estimate there are 36,311 text lines. So if you take an image, 1,644 images, each image has lines. We divide those and we have 36,000. And that text region is a structure that we have devised that has 4,867. Now, a little bit more about it, just to put it in perspective vis-a-vis what is available out there. It is currently the largest available historic Arabic data set for handwritten text recognition. What distinguishes it from others, like Khat or IAM, is that it's not scribed under controlled experimental conditions. Every other data set has actually been scribed under controlled conditions. We actually took historic material, the way people naturally wrote, with a great diversity of authors in order to create as much training for the AI as possible. Specifically, what we also use is Ruqa. And Ruqa is primarily an Ottoman-style, late 19th century type of writing. It's supposed to be casual, but quickly it became adopted in the Ottoman Empire as, in essence, the administrative handwriting. And from that point forward, throughout the Middle East, Ruqa becomes the common handwriting style that a lot of people, kids or whoever went to school, would actually be trained on. So it's the most dominant one. Now, it doesn't mean we cannot train it on other type of handwriting. We can. We've tested it, and we can actually do that. But we really wanted to go with Ruqa because, again, it's the most commonly found type of writing throughout really what we call today as the modern Middle East. And in essence, we use Muharraf to train on this handwriting text recognition. That is, to understand how to segment an image into lines, how to understand the relationship of the lines, and then to identify the writer's style, if you will, in that sense. So it begins to understand that there's a commonality of style. Obviously, individuals write in a very dramatically different way, but at the same time, since people get trained either at school or by their mentors, there becomes to be a pattern in which people are writing that is not necessarily infinite. So there is a kind of a limit, and we begin to identify patterns of how people begin to write. Now, of course, everything has a challenge. You can imagine with historic material, especially, you can have ink bleeds, cross-out text, barely legible handwriting, torn paper, and the list goes on. So we cannot say that once you train a system, it's done. Actually, we find that sometimes, especially, and I'll talk about percentages in a bit, but we find that if we're encountering a writer or a particularly difficult image, we have to have manual intervention still at this point. Nonetheless, it's important to keep in mind that the system really does an excellent job at this point transcribing, as I will demonstrate a little bit later. So we spent time developing this AI system, then we decided to test it on the manuscripts, some of the manuscripts that we have at the center. And if the technology works, I hope, I'll show you how it actually works. So the first thing that we did, I'm going to demonstrate with a style, a document that we have not actually encountered before. It's not part of the training, and we have not done it before. So a lot of this stuff will take about 5 seconds to kind of pop up because it's linking to an outside world. So just be a little bit patient, it'll be there. So we have developed, specifically Dr. Mahreen Saeed developed something called Scribe Arabic 3.1. And Scribe Arabic is a way in which it allows us to perform something we call page HTR. So it's going to ask me a question. I'm going to say okay, because it says if you do page HTR, everything that exists before is going to be lost. So I'm going to say yes, that's fine. It's going to take it about 6.5 seconds, maybe 7, depending upon the speed of our system at this point. It took less. And what you see here, and I'm going to kind of annotate it a little bit for you, you will see that it takes this area and it creates regions. So it creates these, it tries to divide up these regions as much as possible. It says, okay, this is a sentence, and I'm going to divide the sentence. Its sentence begins here. I'm going to take it all the way over there. So it performs that segmentation. Again, this is a person we have not encountered before. And then it creates this link. And then on this side, it says, okay, well, within that box, this is what I have right here. Okay, and let me delete these for a second. Clear drawings. So I hope this makes sense. So basically, we took an image, we asked it to recognize where the segments, where the text blocks are, and to create lines, and it does that. Now, this is a person we have not encountered before, so there will be some mistakes, right? So in essence, if you think about it, if you take, for example, this line right here. Sorry, I'm gonna highlight it again, just so you see. If you take this line here, and if you compare it to the original, what you will find that this line has 12 words, and it got 2 of them wrong. So, منسيين منتوسلات غبطتكم نعرض أنه. So when you get to this point, there's an أنه here that is wrong, so we fix it, right? أنه بهذه البرهة, that's the second one, that's wrong. Now this is saying, this word here is saying that it's wrong, but the fact of the matter is it's wrong because in Arabic we would have had a different ta, but if you look at how it's written here, the AI actually recognizes it exactly. So what I'm saying here is that even for this, in this instance anyway, because this is a fairly clear image, in this instance we have 10 words out of 12 that are actually recognized correctly, which translates to about 83%. What we have found is that depending upon the quality of the page and whether we have seen an author or a style before, the highest levels we have reached is about 90% accuracy. But then if we get into a document that is really messy or very dense with a very terrible handwriting, then that is going to drop to the high 50th percentile, low 60th percentile. That is still for us a fairly dramatic improvement. And what we do is then when we hit new writers, after we train it, we find that it constantly goes up and very quickly gets up into the high 70s, low 80th percentile. And as you saw, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to process this and to clean it up. On an image like this, it doesn't, it doesn't usually take us more than about 30 seconds to a minute to clean up images. So it's a fairly efficient system. Now, once we finish doing these documents, what we have decided to do is create a system that people can access so they can search them. And this will take just a second here. So this is a system that some of you who have used our newspaper database are familiar with. It's the same format, but this actually is for our manuscripts. So I can type a word, Yabrud, it's a name of a town in modern day Syria, and it'll go and find this. And I'll click on it, and now all of a sudden it tells me where Yabrud is appearing, as you can see over here, and then it gives me the text over here that has been transcribed. And at this point, it also gives me a description. So let me stop for a second here, because I want to talk a little bit about why we're doing this. Now, obviously, the first audience that we're concerned about are scholarly researchers who need access to materials such as this. This is the primary sources. People who are working on historical writing or anthropological or sociological writing would need that kind of material. So it's absolutely vital to preserve this material and to make it accessible. But we're also very concerned, and this is why we call this Archive 2.0, that we want to be different in the sense of access, that we do not believe that access to archives should only be to highly trained scholars. I think I myself am a historian, and I appreciate every archive and the archivists who have worked in them. They're amazing people, and they make my life possible and easy. But we also recognize that we cannot continue to function with archives as if they are closed systems that only give access to a handful. Because we want, as an archive at the Khayrallah Center, we actually want this material to be accessible to the largest number of people. Because we want the largest number of people to access knowledge and to generate knowledge. And we want to be responsible towards the community that provides us this material. Because we don't simply want to take, we want to give. And as such, we want to give back the ability for many people to access material that they have no access to because they don't know Arabic. So at the most basic level, if you think about it, when you look at this image that I'm showing you right here, This, on the right-hand side, you find the diary as it's written by Hanna Ghaith, which is a wonderful diary. But many people, including Arabic-speaking students in high schools throughout the Middle East, and even at the university, have a very difficult time reading handwriting. They're not trained to read handwriting because most of them are being trained on text that's computer generated, like you see over here on the side. So even for those who are Arabic speaking, this on the left side of my screen, which is possibly on the right side of your screen, is so much easier to access. So immediately then we provide access to a wide range of students to access primary sources, even at the level of a high school, so they can do research in ways they couldn't do it before. And you can imagine the same thing would apply at this point to students not only who know Arabic, but students who don't. Because now that we have a digital text, I can translate it. I think I can. There we go. Right? So now I can translate it into pretty much any language I want. At this point, we have Portuguese, Spanish, French, and English. But then we just open up another level of accessibility, because not only are we talking about people who know Arabic, now we're talking about people who don't know Arabic. So if I have, for example, students in my modern Middle East class, I can actually give them these sources and I can have them translated automatically, even though they don't have access to Arabic themselves or not trained deeply enough to do that. So all of a sudden I've created a new environment. But ultimately for me, what is really exciting about this is that the community that has held on to this material, that has privileged us and have been generous with us to give us this material, can now actually read what they have. And I'll give you a quick example. Recently, a family gave us about 86 letters, and they had not been able to read them. They knew something that had to do with a legal case, something about a land dispute, and they sent them to us, and I was able to process this, produce the translation, and send it back to them. And they were deeply moved by the fact that for once now they can access this material in a way they could not access it before. It gave them back a part of their history. And that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about Archive 2.0. The fact of the matter is, we need, as archives, as archivists, as research centers, to open our doors to a variety of people. Now, let me go to something else here. And what we have also been doing, and this is I mentioned earlier, is that we already have a newspaper database that's working here. But now we also are, and I'll give you a glimpse, and I'll talk a little bit about timelines in a bit, but I'm going to open this up. And I'm going to go to a newspaper that I know we have ran through our news system. It's called Al Huda. And I am going to go 1898 and apply the filter. And I'm going to show you this one page here. So what you will see here is different than what most people have seen on Arabic search, because you have these red boxes. Because what we have been doing is we've been creating another AI model that is really good at reading segmented text. Because as regular people, when we read a newspaper, we understand that a newspaper, the way you read it is you go like this, down here, and then you go to this line, down here, and then this line, if you're reading from right to left. So we have to actually teach it how to read as we would read. And that's what we have been able to do. And once we did that, then we can create coherent text. So we can extract the texts from these boxes. And now that we have extracted them, we can translate them into a language that people can read. So on both sides, we have used AI to allow us to extract coherent text that makes sense, and then to translate it. And that, for me, is an incredibly important first step. Now, let me talk a little bit about where we see ourselves going with all of this, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. In many ways, if you think about the way the system works, at this point, we are assuming the user knows Arabic, can type in Arabic, and can read Arabic. We are going to a place where we don't assume any of that. In fact, we're going to a place where you can come in and think here of ChatGPT or any other generative AI large language model that you may have encountered. We go to it and we basically ask a question in Arabic, in French, in English, what's called natural language processing. We take that question And we go to this database of newspapers. We go to this database of manuscripts, and we retrieve the answers for them, and as well as the documents that may be pertinent to the answer. So this, for us, this is an important element. The first step in this is creating what's called knowledge graphs. So every document that you see, whether it's a newspaper column or whether it's a letter, as in this case, from Abbas Nakhul Bajani to Amir Rehani, we are able to read it because, again, we have extracted, we have transcribed it into digital text, and now we can create this mapped relationship that you see over here, this mapping of knowledge that shows connections, and then we are able to extract what the letter is really about, right? So it's not simply a translation, it's actually reading the letter and gaining a depth of that letter. So that's the first step that we're taking. Once we do that, then we go to the next stage in which we can ask questions. Now, this is highly experimental, and again, I'm going to talk a little about releases, but as you can see here, we asked, actually based on the letter I just showed you before, based on this letter, we asked a question in English. What were Rehani's views on religion? And it gives us an answer. It gives us 5 documents, and we can ask it to give us 10, we can ask it to give us 20. Again, all of this is experimental at this point, with the text beneath them and a summary of each document. So now we're opening up a greater possibility for people to interact with this material, which is very exciting on so many levels, because no longer do you actually need to know Arabic deeply to read handwritten Arabic, nor you can type a question, whether you're looking for ancestors in our newspaper database or you're looking to understand what's in the archive. You can start using natural language processing. Again, this is under development. This will not be released for a while, and I'll talk at the end about where we're going. I'm going to try to demonstrate it, but please be patient. This is incredibly experimental at this point. It's a little bit slow. We're playing around, so we're not really, this is the first time that anybody publicly sees what we are trying to do. So what I'm going to try to do first is I'm going to use the newspapers to ask a question. So it's going to take a second to load, and I'm going to ask a question. What is known about, I got to type in English. What is known about Yusuf Karam? Okay, so I'm going to send it to different model, and I'm going to search. It takes probably about 4 to 5 seconds, maybe 10, depending upon how much material we're sending it. And hopefully in the next couple of seconds, we will be able to see what it says. Again, as I said, so there you go. So it says here, Yusuf Bey Karam was a prominent Lebanese national leader and knows for his patriotic deeds. Again, this is all experimental. It showed me, pulled up some newspaper pages, including this one over here that shows his image right here from Al-Huda, and it gave me some material. So again, it's using that natural language processing in a way that allows the user to interrogate, to retrieve data in ways that was not possible. Or we could do it with letters. And again, I'll go to this a little bit more robust system. I would say, who is Amir Rehani? And I will search. And this is using the manuscripts that I showed you before. This is based on the Amir Rehani. This is faster. And so it gives you an answer. It provides you with a summary of the documents and the Arabic text of the documents itself, right? So that is the goal we're going to. Now let me talk a little bit about timeline. Our first timeline is what we're hoping is that we are going to be releasing the fihris.org, which is our web portal that allows you to search in Arabic in our Arabic manuscript of the archive by the end of this year, or at the latest January 2026. We are also going to be releasing the new version of the newspaper database with the ability to translate by the same time frame. So in essence, we're hoping that those two things, with the updated ability for translation as well as the amazing transcription capability of the Arabic manuscript, will all be ready by late 2025, early 2026 at this point. The other material, what I just showed you, which is this ability to create a chatbot or a way for natural language processing to play out, we hope that we will have that ready by late summer 2026 or fall 2026. So within about a year from now, we hope to be able to provide access to that as well. But we're also very concerned. We're doing all of this not because it's just for us, the Moise Khayrallah Center, although we're very proud and happy to provide this material and make it accessible first on our own archive, but we also want to share. And at this point, we are imagining two scenarios. We don't have the full details yet, but we understand the basic premise. We want to allow individuals, scholars or the general public, to be able to upload images of, let's say, letters or a diary that they don't really know how to read to the system. They upload it. It, in essence, runs it through, provides the transcription into digital text, and then it gives them the translation for each of the images that they provide. So that idea then that the community, in essence, has an input into this. They are able to use this tool to benefit themselves. And also we do believe it's a way to encourage them to preserve this history that, as you very well know, is so fragile and so ephemeral that we have to hold on to it. But we also want to work with institutions. We have a very good working relationship currently with Kaslik, the Holy Spirit University in Kaslik. As I said, the Arabic linguists, Carlos and George, have been absolutely instrumental in building the data set, in helping clean up some of the transcriptions to better train the AI. But we also, have given them access to a little bit to play around with the software that we develop, which is called Arabic Scribe. We hope to provide something similar. Now, the reason I'm not giving any more details is very simple. I'm going to be very straightforward with this, is that all of this requires a lot of computing power and, quite frankly, a lot of funding. This kind of development is not cheap. It requires a lot of personnel, but also it requires high-powered computing. So it's not doable on any old desktop or laptop. We had to invest heavily in equipment. And even when we house it, the databases, we house them on a place like Amazon AWS, which is a cloud storage, the cost is high. So we have to figure out a way to allow people to use it, but also that makes sure that we're not all of a sudden running out of funds within the center. But it is our hope that this is what's going to be developing over the next months, and hopefully not too long, beyond the release of Fahris and ArabicSearch.org. So I've thrown a lot of material at you. I know I've given you a lot of terms and a lot of issues. So I want to take a moment here. I want to, and I'm going to keep this on so that in case you ask me to go to any slide, and I'm going to try to turn to any questions that you might have at this point. And I'm going to start. So somebody asked if the PowerPoint will be available on our site. At this point, the answer is no, because it has links to websites that we're really not making public as of yet. The next question is about the question about, and I love this question. This is about the concerns about translation. So the answer is absolutely we have concerns about translation. Clearly, this translation, and let me explain a little bit more what I mean by that. When we're looking at newspapers, our concerns about translations are a little bit less than those about handwriting, because newspapers tended to be written in what we call Fusha, or modern standard Arabic. And so that standardization, there's enough of a lexicon that's available through translation material that it allows us to do a fairly accurate translation. However, when we're talking about manuscripts, there are two things. This system will never replace, for a historian, close reading of the material themselves. That is absolutely the case. We are not here to say, yes, you no longer have to be, reading closely. No, absolutely not. As a historian, I would not say I would have to go to the original material and read it by hand. But now I can find it. And quite frankly, in some of this material, I have to tell you, it is difficult to read the handwriting. And the AI actually manages to figure out what the Arabic word is. So it does a far better job at times. And we've tested it. We had focus groups in which we had people who are, native speakers of Arabic and can read Arabic. And they had a heck of a time understanding the handwritten while the AI was doing better. But At the same time, to answer the concern about this question, we continue to build a lexicon. What I mean by that is handwritten letters are very much dialect-based, idiomatic. There is typos. There is a way in which people were semi-literate. So there are all sorts of questions that arise in the translation. We provide the translation as a cheat sheet, so to speak, for people who do not know Arabic at all to be able to at least understand what the general subject is. The disclaimer would be, I wouldn't take it into a court of law, but certainly it would give you a very close reading. At the same time, we continue to fix a translation and build a lexicon of the idiomatic usage of that time period, late 19th century, early 20th century. And we're still working on a way in which we will allow, because there will always be mistakes. We're working on a way that once we release our collection at the end of this year or early next year, if people find errors in the transcription or in the translation, we would want to give them a way to suggest a correction. And that way, this becomes a crowdsourcing process and a community process. But I really like the question. I think it's great. And so there's a question about a person saying, can I submit an image from my computer and obtain a translation? The answer is yes, not at this moment. But as I said, we are going to create a portal. Hopefully, we will have it released by spring 2026, in which an individual user will upload an image that is handwritten in Arabic and will be transcribed and translated, and the person can then read it. Okay, with the proviso again that if it's somebody we have not seen, some of the transcription will be off, and therefore some of the translation will be off. But as the AI model gets better and better and better, those issues will start to diminish more and more. And as a follow-up to that question, we will give people the option of either giving us the original so that we can save it and preserve it for them, or if they don't want that, we do not keep the document. If their wish is simply to use it so they can keep it to themselves to read it, we will respect that wish, and we will not retain a copy. So there will be a place where you can click and say, yes, you may retain a copy, and if you don't click that, we will not retain a copy of that. So that is up to the user, and we will always respect the user's perspective. So thank you for asking that question. Transliteration, and that's an excellent question as well. The word Khouri, which is a family name, is written in English in about 500 different ways. Khouri, Khoury, Coury, Cri. So you can imagine transliteration becomes a really interesting thing. And if somebody is typing a question in English, but this is also one of the positive, and by the way, we are completely also aware of the negative aspects of AI, so please don't think we are acolytes. But one of the positive things about AI is that once you train it to understand that Khouri can be spelled in different ways, it itself will take that into consideration and understand that if somebody writes Coury, they really are talking in Arabic the word Khouri, and takes it that way. And vice versa, by the way. So I think what this allows us to do is allow people to sort of, because we've seen this over and over again, in which people write things differently, and even those who are native Arabic speakers will, write their names differently. So Muhammad could be written all sorts of ways, and we want to allow people to write it as they see it, but also at the same time understand that in Arabic it's written Mim Ha Mim Dal, right? It's the basic one. So again, this is something that we'll always be aware of. I'm not saying it's there already, but it's something that we will definitely be working and keeping in mind. So thank you so much for that question. And so, again, Laila was asking the same question when doing the search in English, does AI recognize the variables? And the answer is yes. So the example she gave is Amin could be written A-M-E-E-N or A-M-I-N, and we would recognize it both ways because, again, we are training the system to understand that more and more. And this is a process. Look, I mean, I have to also say, I am surrounded by amazing people. Dr. Saeed is truly an amazing computer scientist and has done amazing work. And we're always coming up with ways in which we can improve things. But as you can imagine, things take time, right? For me, for example, to simply say, we have created an AI model called Layout Parser trained at how to look at a newspaper page and understand where the segments are, is a shorthand for literally hundreds of hours of working on this. And it's never going to be 100% perfect. Like today, we just uploaded a newspaper that was very complicated segments on the page. And, the layout parser had a hard time. It hadn't seen it before. So we have to go back and we have to create about 20 different examples, upload them, and train them. So we will always be actually improving on this because we believe very strongly that this is an organic project that will invite community participation in commentary, in requests, and in usage. So thank you so much for asking that question. So the NEH, somebody's asking about the NEH. We were very fortunate to get in 2023 a large NEH grant that was helped with this funding and the system. And we were very proud to get it. We, to this day, by the way, it is the largest NEH grant in the history of North Carolina State University. And we're very excited by it because NEH recognized what a revolutionary system this is. And again, please keep in mind, we didn't do this just for the Khayrallah Center. We believe this will be a system that can be used by other archives. We will work with them. We want this to be used so that people can begin to have access to the wealth of information that's written in Arabic, but it's also in Turkish, in Ottoman Turkish. So unfortunately, as you all know, the NEH, we were going to apply for additional grants this year, but the current administration, in essence, shut down the NEH. Not effectively, but not completely, but effectively shut it down, and they closed down the grants that we were going to apply for, 2 major grants. And we don't know when this is going to be restarted. We clearly don't. In fact, the federal government decisions on shutting down federal funding for research, including the National Science Foundation, where we have this, applied for a new grant, was completely shut down. And here I have to mention that we received, because we have found that this funding is drying up, there are other people who have stepped up. And I'm going to give a shout out to 2 donors. One wishes to remain anonymous, and the other, I can use their name. Last year, we had one donor that gave a very significant gift to the Khayrallah Center to establish an endowed professorship in Arab migration studies, to continue the work that we're doing and to advance it. And we are so grateful for that. And that is a transformational gift. I also want to recognize Jimmy Nassour for his large gift that is equally transformative, and that was to rename the archive and also to advance our work. So quite frankly, if I was to take the question that was asked about NEH, at this point, this is a very expensive projects that we undertake, and this is one of literally dozens of projects that we're doing. We do depend on funding at this point from the community and from very generous donors, whether they give us $5 or they give us, a lot more than that. The fact of the matter is, at this point, the landscape looks like that's going to be our major source of funding. We try to go after things such as Amazon, AWS, to see if they would help with, at least, provide us a little bit of funding for housing our material there, but we really can't depend too heavily even on corporate funding at this point. Thank you for the question. So in terms of the next question, in terms of the newspapers, at this point, we have uploaded about 470,000 pages. We estimate we have been receiving more and more newspapers. We just signed an agreement with the National Library of Chile. We are close to signing an agreement with Colegio de Mexico in Mexico City, and we are receiving a major collection from Brazil. So we're expanding our collections geographically. And so we expect at this point, when all of this stuff keeps added, we will go up to at least 750,000 pages of Arabic newspapers. Now, we're not talking about books yet, and books is yet another project that we hope, especially original books that are in Arabic, we hope to make accessible, again, through this translation. And that will add hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of pages. As for the manuscripts, at this point, we estimate that we've done about 1,800 pages of our manuscripts, and it'll be an ongoing project that we add to it. Our hope is that every manuscript that we have in the center will be completely done. So, again, it is part of our goal to be completely open source with everything that we have. So again, thank you for that question, Linda. Magda asked a question about whether we're working with the Arab American National Museum. I am very privileged and proud to say that we always work with the Arab American National Museum. I mean, they are an amazing institution. They are pioneers in the field of public history and Arab American history. And I work with Diana Abu Ali, who is the current director, and Matthew Stifler, who used to be there before he moved to another aspect of the project. And it's always a pleasure to work with them. And we exchange information, we exchange tools, and we will continue to do so. So yes, absolutely, it's really it's a privilege to work with them. And we try to work with as many institutions as possible. So we hope to work with a lot of institutions in Lebanon, because obviously we're focused on Lebanon. Our relationship with Kaslik has been incredibly productive. It will only get deeper, and we hope to expand that to institutions like NDU, American University in Beirut, and archives that exist in Lebanon as well. Let me see. So Hamad is asking about copyright for the newspapers and material. That's a very good question. Believe me when I say that we have a team of lawyers both at the library and NC State, as well as the university as a whole, that guide us on copyright. There's nothing that we put online that is not copyright, free copyright royalty. What I mean by that is there are various copyright laws. So if we get something from Chile, for example, it's not going to be the same as when we get it from New York Public Library. So a lot of our material, let me back up a little bit. The material comes in two ways. One, there's an institution that holds it, Library of Congress, New York Public Library, or let's say the National Library in Chile. They, in essence, hold the copyright to those things or usage, and we, when they give us the permission through memorandums of understanding, we can use it. There are other instances in which the family donates the originals, and they own the copyright and they release it. But there also, we are very careful, to do due diligence. That is to always try to figure out who owns this so that we can ask permission. It's not always easy because it's sometimes very convoluted and whole continuous, but we always do our due diligence in that regard. And we are very conscious that we do not want to be an extractive archive. We respect people's right. And so even when we put this online, for example, we got material from Brazil and Argentina. We always are clear about who owns the copyright. We don't own the copyright. We list clearly through logos as well as names about the ownership. And we will always be open about that, because our purpose as a center is not to vacuum up data. Rather, it's to help work with others to make that data accessible. There's somebody who's asking if we are open to having more people join the focus group. Absolutely, we would love to have that. And again, we're trying to create a system in which people can go in and say, I would like to participate. And we'll hopefully make that available early 2026. We do believe very strongly in crowdsourcing because it creates a conversation and it enriches us because it brings the wonderful experience, expertise, and intelligences that abound in our community to bring it to bear. But we have to bring a system in which, because, you can have two people look at the same document and come up with different words. So we have to have somehow of a tiebreaker, something. So we're working on that system. Because also, as you very well know, Gustavo, that whenever you have a system online, it opens you up to all sorts of hacking attempts. So we have to have security upon security to protect the information, and at the same time as giving open access. So it gets complicated that way, but we absolutely are open to that. Sorry, I'm going to read Carla's question. It's going to take a while. Okay, so Carla was asking, for those of us who have Arabic letters and have not been at home and can't read them, how is this going to work? So there are two ways, Carla, that this could work. One is you reach out to me and we discuss it and we try to figure out how much you have and whether we will run it for you before it becomes publicly available. We will run the material for you, clean up the transcription, get you the translation, and send it to you. The other model that we are looking for is that we will actually allow you to sign up. So you will have, login credentials that we will verify, and then you will see a portal where we say, from your computer over. This is a web portal. You copy or you drag the images that you want transcribed and then translated. You drop them in a place where we provide for you. They're automatically transcribed, translated, and then you can download each transcription in Arabic and the translation of the Arabic. That one. So we have talked about subscription model that is pay to play, but really at this point we don't want that. We do not want to charge people. With institutions, we might have to have some sort of agreement because institutions will have a lot more material and we cannot afford to basically pay for the cost. But for individuals, we would like to keep it as free as possible. What we'll do is we'll limit how much they can do per week and then monitor how much it costs us as a center. But again, I know it sounds simple, but it's going to take a lot for us to develop the security credentialing system to give people access to the tool without allowing hackers to access the database itself. So I hope that answers the question. Basma, I'm happy at the end to give you, and I will ask Lauren actually at this point to put in the chat the link to the GitHub where you can find all the material about the Muharraf dataset. So she's going to put that in, as well as a link to the article we published about the set. The data set is available for free. You can download it, the public one anyway. And again, it's through our GitHub channel, and Lauren will put that at this point there. So you will be able to get all the information. If you have any further question, Basma, I can put you in touch with Mehreen, who will be more than happy to talk with you about that. So I would be, Raylin, you and I can discuss about the typeset text, and we can discuss that later, so we can do it offline. Back to Basma asking a question about RAG. So RAG, for those of you who don't know what it is called a retrieval augmentation generator. And basically, it's a way for a system, it's a multi-part system that looks at, when somebody asks a question, it goes and looks to try to retrieve them. And the way we retrieve them is I don't know if you remember when we mapped, let me go back. Oops, sorry, I completely went out here. Let me go back up here. I hope you can still see me. We will map every document, and that allows us to create what's called a RAG. And we are using one as a search engine to retrieve the material. Then once we retrieve the documents that are relevant, we send the tags to a large language model to provide the answer. We have found all sorts of issues and hiccups, and we are very careful now using large language models because we do not want them to take the data, because that is not something that we want to do. All right. Kyle is asking about, how about the reverse? Does it trip up on foreign words in Arabic text? What is really interesting is actually the way we have been able to train this. For the Arabic manuscripts, yes, it's going to trip up on non-Arabic text. In the newspapers at this point, our recognition doesn't care whether it's Arabic, Spanish, English, or what have you, it'll recognize it. We are working on the system where when it encounters handwritten non-Arabic text, it's going to understand them a little bit better. So that's all I can say at this particular moment. We have 5 more minutes. I'm going to jump. And Basma, I know you have another question, but since I've answered a couple of those, I'm going to jump to other questions. And again, you're welcome to join. I mean, welcome to send me an email. I'll put you in touch with Mehreen. So somebody's asking, there are public health researchers and thinking about applications. Yeah, so again, Nadia, I think we would be very happy to discuss this about how you can use it for different data sets and other institutions. The question is always going to be for us, we're happy to help, we're happy to make it available, but the question is, how do we do so in a way that doesn't overtax our system? Just to share with you something, and this is literally the least expensive expenditure. We had to buy a specialized computer, this is one of many things, that cost us $20,000 because it required GPU cards that are very expensive. So you can imagine the scale at which we're operating. So we're trying to figure out how to balance the need of the community and institutions with our ability to fund that and to run that, because also it overwhelms our systems to a certain extent. But again, I'm happy to talk with you, Nadia, and see what we can do. Hamad, you're asking when and where we can access these systems. Again, the Fihris system, which is the Arabic manuscript system, that will be primarily, or exclusively at this point, our collection, will be available at the end of 2025, early 2026. The same thing with a newspaper database version 2.0, that also will be available then. The additional material, we're hoping that it'll be late summer, early fall, that we can do this. Raylan, as you know, the Southern Federation does not provide donations for these things. They have their own, budget restrictions, and I completely respect that. Aisha asked a very smart question, which is, we're focused here at the Ottoman Empire, Eastern Mediterranean, Middle Eastern Arabic. What about Arabic that's, for example, from West African manuscripts? That is written both in Arabic and Ajami or Farsi. The fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter where it's written, but given the fact that the style is different than Ruqa, then we will have to train it so that it actually can begin to understand how that is written. And we have to build a lexicon of words, because again, because it's not only trying to read handwriting, AI is also trying to understand what is this word closest to logically. So it needs a lexicon in that regard as well. But we are more than happy to work with other folks about those manuscripts. Again, you can imagine if we get a lot of demands, things are going to take a while. Maha is asking about whether it can translate books of poetry and philosophy. We have tested it on material by Mahjari or Lebanese diasporic or Arab American authors, and it's done a fairly good job, absolutely. Because again, they're writing in Fusha, and the translation software that we're using seems to be able to handle it fairly well. But we haven't really started uploading books. We have a backlog of hundreds of books that we would like to upload from the early Arab American writers. But at this point, we're so focused on the manuscripts that we put that on hold, because we all have to have lives every now and then, and we only have so many hours in the day. We have a couple minutes left, and I know there are a lot more questions that we haven't gotten to. This is a question that I'm going to answer. It's the last one, and the rest of you folks, Lauren is going to take down the questions, and we will try to answer you. You can write emails to me. Lauren puts my email in there, so I'll do that. So Eli was asking, what mechanisms are we putting in place to empower local institutions and communities in the region, rather than just being an academic project? First of all, that's the whole point of what I was just saying, Eli. The point of it is, we are developing this not just for the Khayrallah Center. We're developing it to make it a tool to work with communities so they can actually use it themselves. Now, we may not be able to provide the infrastructure for you to develop that, because we can't afford to do that, but we can give you the technology. In fact, as I said, if you go to the GitHub site, you can download the technology and build it up. So we are not keeping anything secret here. We actually want to give back to the heritage holders, to the stakeholders, to the record keepers, because that's where it belongs in many ways. But we're also willing to work with institutions and communities to preserve them, because we believe very strongly the material should stay within the community to enrich the community. However, we have also discovered that some communities do not have the infrastructure for that. So that at that point, we would be able to work with them to try to figure out how we can become a repository. Again, not because we want to vacuum the knowledge, but rather because we want to make it open. And we can continue this conversation, but we are unfortunately out of time. Thank you so much for attending. I know you're all busy, that you took the time to be with us today. I deeply appreciate, and we can continue this conversation offline, hopefully. Thank you again so much, and we hope that you will join us for future webinars in the Khayrallah Center, and visit the website. We have a lot of resources for research about the community, the larger Arab American community of immigrants. So thank you so much for being with us, and have a great day.